everyone, and welcome back to the Blind Horse Project podcast. The Blind Horse Project is a project intended to bring awareness and education about blind horses to the general horse owner population. Because of a lack of understanding of what our horses need and what their lives can look like after losing their eyesight, many of these horses are euthanized before they get the chance to be rehabilitated. Our goal is to change the everyday perspective of the blind horse, and in doing so, to save lives. Every Saturday, we release our Blind Horse Owner Journeys episodes, which has the main purpose of allowing our fellow blind horse owners to come out of the woodwork and let their voices and their journeys be heard. Today, we join Chelsea, a worker at an equine therapeutic riding center in Kentucky, and her working equine partner, Lucy. Hi, Chelsea. Thanks again for coming on the Blind Horse Project podcast and sharing your amazing journey with our listeners. It really does take bravery to come out of the shadows with a topic like this, and we are so excited to have you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you located, and how long have you been a horse person?
So I'm located in Berea, Kentucky, which is about 45 minutes south of Lexington. I've really been a horse person all my life. I grew up with them, my grandparents, raised and bred Tennessee walking horses, and then I kind of went off to college and lost touch with it. But about 10 years ago, I started with a therapeutic horsemanship center here in Kentucky. It's Kentucky Foothills Therapeutic Horsemanship Center, and I really fell in love with it again and kind of saw what it could do for people that ride with us, and that's how I got back into it. And so for the last 10 years, I've been all horses all the time.
Awesome. So that's really cool that you work with the therapeutic riding program. I think that's awesome. So we came on, and I know we talked a little bit before the podcast about this beautiful mare that you've been working with. How did you come to work with her?
So within our therapeutic horsemanship program, I have been our horse wrangler. So I care for all the horses that are in the program. And she was really young. I think she was probably about 9. She's pretty young when I first got to know her. And so from there, I ended up moving into the same property with the horses. And so she's really been under my eye very closely for the last 6 years. And my personal horse is here as well. And she and him are just the best of friends, and they're always together. So I've really fallen in love with her.
Okay. And how when she arrived, was she already blind, or how did that come about?
So she actually was born to be a therapy horse. Mark and Cheryl Martin are the founders of our program, and they bred her and 3 or 4 other horses from day one. They had picked the mare, picked the stallion, and started working with these horses immediately. So she has been with Mark and Cheryl her whole entire life, and within the last 6 years, she's really been part of mine. And she started presenting with ERU in 2019. And so we really didn't know what it was at the time. Our vet didn't quite have the technology to assess her properly. And so while they were waiting on getting the proper equipment in, we went through a bunch of different medications, and through all that, it took us about 2 years to really start seeing some bad progression. She was having flare-ups every 4 or 5 months, and her eye would just become cloudy. And so it wasn't from a birth thing. It's really just been over the last 4 years, honestly, that we just saw it progress and then straight just keep getting worse and worse, and be all the time she was having cloudy eye, and we knew something wasn't right. And so that's how it really started us to seeing what was going on, because it wasn't just she had poked her eye and now it's cloudy all the time. So that really led us down the path.
Okay, that makes sense. Just for the benefit of our listeners, can you explain what ERU is?
Yeah, it's equine reoccurring uveitis. I have a hard time with that word. It's also called moon blindness, I learned, and I had never heard of it before. But basically, it slowly deteriorates their eye. With Lucy, it was a very high pressure in her eye. The last time they had measured it before they had removed it, it was about 70 in that eye, and it normally should be in the teens is a normal pressure amount for an eyeball for a horse. So it just causes a lot of deterioration of her eye, basically.
Yep. Okay, so what struggles did you come across with her that you hadn't previously seen in sighted horses, and how did you overcome them?
So she really didn't give us any physical signs that something was wrong with her eye. She's always been a very cool, calm, and collected horse. She has to be for her occupation. She works with kids and adults with special needs. And so she really didn't show us until we got a lot farther down the road. And we recognized after we had this couple of vet visits that she was blind in that eye for the most part. They said that she could see like grayish shapes. But the one thing that I did notice is we were unloading her from the trailer one day and we were taking her out to the field and something moved on that side of her body. And she spooked. Nothing crazy, nothing big, but it was out of her ordinary. And that's when we were like, okay, she's showing something. She doesn't show us a whole lot of what pain she's in. But after talking to the vet, having that pressure be so high in that eye is like having a migraine all day, every day. And so that's what we really saw the biggest difference in. Her riding wasn't any different. She didn't act any different on the ground other than that.
Okay, and then just to clarify for our listeners here, so she's blind in just one eye then?
Yes, she's had one eye completely removed.
Okay, and how did the journey for her removal of her eye go?
Well, we were very blessed and very lucky with the surgical team. The team at Haggard in Lexington, Kentucky. Stephanie Bell is the doctor on the eye care team, and she was a blessing throughout everything. She removed the eye, covered it with a bandage, covered her whole face with a bandage. I think she had to have the mask or the bandage on for a few days, not too long. But after the removal, she stayed the night at the vet's, came back home, and she was on stall rest for about 2 weeks. She had a decent amount of antibiotics to go through. But really, the removal process was quite easy. The recovery wasn't as hard as what we've seen with. We have another horse that has eye problems at the moment, and his journey's been a lot harder than hers.
Okay, that would be an interesting story for another podcast. I'm sure our listeners would be interested in hearing that one on another podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, but despite the eye removal, she can still perform her job. Was there any additional training that needed to be done after her recovery, she was popped back into work?
We rode her about a month after she had her eye removed, and she really didn't have a problem adapting right back to riding. A lot of the things we saw were things that we needed to talk through with her. So like approaching her from that side of the body, if we touched her without saying anything, she would jump a little bit. And so to remedy that, I just started saying touch before I touched her anywhere on that side of the body or the face or the head. And so just giving her awareness. We did notice that she lost her left eye. In our program, we typically mount from the left. And so we did notice with riders that she wasn't 100% comfortable and felt confident in. She didn't enjoy being mounted from the left. So now we mount her from the right side, and she was perfectly fine. Something that was really interesting to me, though, is when we did start riding her and just watching her interaction with other horses, her ear on that side really made up for the difference in her not being able to see. She would follow. I sent you a video of her that first ride back, and you'll see in it she follows the other horse with her ear. And so she's really attentive and listening out on that side to see what's there or what she needs to be aware of. Not see, I suppose, but just keep a vibe out for anything that's on that side of her body. So she really has compensated for it well and is just her sweet self still.
Okay, awesome. That is so cool to hear. Do you have any last words for our listeners?
I think the most unexpected part of this all was the herd's reaction to her. She normally stays out with 7 or 8 other horses that she's been around her entire life. And we had removed her from the herd of horses, her and her mate, from the herd of horses for a couple of months to deal with this and everything. Well, when we put her back in independently with 2 or 3 other horses she's been with her whole life, that was her brother, been raised from as sub-foal, they really attacked her and went after her. It was very sudden because I didn't expect it, but the other horses sensed there was something off with her. So we really had to integrate her as a brand new horse to the entire herd.
Okay, and how did you do that?
Started off with just putting her out with the big herd, and so she could get away from them, because I brought her into a smaller pasture, maybe a 2-acre pasture, with 3 other horses that were not with her during that time, and so it was kind of a shock to them to understand what was going on. And so just easing her out there and slowly adding different horses in really helped. And now when we do trailer her, because we keep them at a different location from where we do our services, we haul her in and put her in a separate paddock with a different horse. And so she's not put in that position with the herd leaders to have to, defend them off for any reason. And so we've just been more cautious about how we are handling her and what moves we're making with her in her pastures. Okay, awesome. Well, I think that pretty much wraps things up. Thank you again for sharing your inspiring story with us on the Blind Horse Project, Chelsea. You're welcome. Have a great night. You too. How cool is it that even with an eye removed, Lucy is still able to do her job well as a therapeutic riding horse? And thanks again to Chelsea for sharing your guys' journey with us here on the podcast. For our listeners, be sure to check out all the Blind Horse Project's social medias, which include TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. If you would like to share your blind horse journey or send in video clips of you and your blind horse to be featured in our upcoming highlights videos, email us at theblindhorseproject@aol.com. For those of you looking for direct professional support from a professional who specializes in rehabilitating blind horses back to work, check out the Blind Horse Project Patreon. Thanks again, everyone.